Hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast, and thank you for joining me. Today I have Jared, the medium, and Jared is going to talk about, I don't know how this conversation is going to go, but we're going to start with traversing through adversity and what happened that he realized that he was actually receiving messages, as we all do if we listen. Welcome, Jared.
Hi, thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate you saying it the way you did it because that was an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. Uh,
Yeah, I don't like the canned stuff.
you don't like the what stuff? The
The
canned
canned
stuff?
stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I'm a fly by the seat kind of person too. I like the honesty, and that's what I like about you. It's just so true and so honest and like right to the point, and that's the thing I don't like about this kind of work. There's a lot of this stuff that isn't to the point and it isn't candid and it isn't simple. And I really focus on trying to make it simple so everybody can understand it. And in my goal in teaching everybody this and making them understand the process is that it does seem like something we all do, and it does feel like something that you can use in your everyday life. That's become my purpose. And of course, it wasn't my intention for that to be my purpose. Like, my intention was to become a famous wizard, right? Like that was my idea. I'm going to be a famous wizard, right? See, I got the new famous wizard tattoo. That's what this is to remind me of, right? No, this is my alter ego, right? This is what my idea was. And then spirit comes in and of course I'm on my goal to try to do that. And spirit comes in and says, no, this is what you're going to help people. Like, oh yeah, that's what this is about. Oh yeah, that's the secret to life. Oh yeah.
And it's very easy. See, we're not even on track, and who cares? Um,
I know. Sorry, I went left field already.
no, we're going to
That's
do
how I
whatever the
am.
universe tells us to talk about.
Uh,
So lately I've been posting how I've embraced that life is a game. And so I'll tell you how I'm embracing it and what happened. So I've been saying life is a game for quite a while. And a few weeks ago, um, I mentioned life is a game, and then the universe said, "So why are you so serious?" And I'm like, "Right, let the inner child out." The second I did that, Jared, my programs are coming together like no freaking tomorrow. It's like, bam, I have a new name for my business. I have a new logo being done. Like this was like 3 weeks ago now, right? All of this stuff is happening because I'm like, it's just a game. So I posted about life being a game, and I actually had someone argue with me, right? And I was going to respond, and then I went, no, this is where they're at right now. And that's okay because their game is suffering still.
Yeah, that's a battle that I deal with a lot. Obviously, I'm a medium, and there's a lot of hatred towards that. There's a lot of religion that says that's wrong, and there's a lot of so I get a lot of that. And I've recently come up with a new because it used to bother me. I would try to defend myself, and I would want to explain to them, and I just started. The truth is I'm skeptical too. So why am I? I'm very skeptical. I'm like I don't believe anybody unless I feel it, right? Like that's my
Right.
truth. And that's what I teach people. Look, don't believe me. I could be wrong. But if I say something to you and you feel it, then you believe that because that's never wrong. Like
Right?
spirit's never wrong. God is never wrong. Whatever you
No.
call it's never wrong. And my life is nothing but a bunch of lessons to teach me that, right? Like that's the truth. My life has been nothing but a bunch of lessons to teach me that they've been telling me the whole time and they've been right and I've been wrong and all I got to do is listen to them and everything's easy.
Oh my God. And when you don't when I didn't, oh, I have so many stories, but I'm going to tell one that was so blatant and I still went forward because I had air quotes integrity, right? I had made a commitment to work for someone, which meant selling my house, closing my business, and driving 1,200 miles away
Wow.
to live from beautiful San Diego to snow mountains in Oregon, which was beautiful, but not my jam. I had a little bit of trouble getting my stuff packed to move. Ran into a little obstacle there, ignored that. got in the car, and my cat, who loves to travel, became a banshee and was screaming.
No.
Yes. I ignored that. I not only ran into rain, which doesn't happen that often in California, it's a desert. When I got to Oregon, there was so much snow, I barely made it to the house safely. And on the way, I my gut was telling me turn around, but my head was saying, but you made a commitment, but you made a commitment, but you made a commitment. And so it was one of the worst experiences I've had. And shortly after that, I returned to San Diego. No home, no money, no business because of that. However, the lessons were friggin' huge. And the breakthrough I mean, my heart opened because I wouldn't leave until I understood, why did this happen? Why did I allow this to happen? What am I supposed to learn here? Because I'm not leaving till I learn it. I'm not leaving.
Yeah, I always describe this and as like a cold. Okay, I learned a lot from other situations because I'm stubborn, right? And there's nothing like a cold to make you, when you get over a cold, you feel like crap for a couple days, and you get back to normal, and you're like, oh my God, it
Ah,
feels so good to be normal again. I
yes,
forgot how good normal felt. Now think about that for a minute, because if I didn't feel like garbage for 3 days, I wouldn't be appreciating normal. And that's not saying I feel amazing. That's just saying I feel good to be normal again. So what that teaches me is that I need these lows to appreciate where I'm at. I need to go down. I need to have bad days. I need to have bad millennium of 10 years in a row. I need those. I need those, because if not, I wouldn't appreciate normal. I wouldn't appreciate what I have. And I wouldn't have what I have if it wasn't for the downs. And so you learn to appreciate that. So I'm going to go back a little bit because you asked me and I kind of skipped over it, but my story has recovery in it. So I would, I teach everybody that everybody has this ability that I have as a medium. We all communicate with the other side, whether we believe it or not, whether we know it or not. What we call it doesn't matter to me. Intuition, God, prayer. This is all communication with the other side. I don't. I got to the point where I don't care what you call it because it doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's all the same, and that's a lesson I learned. But my point is that I grew up with a father who had passed away when I was 2 years old. Okay, so my dad died before I was two. So as young as I can remember, I could always feel him around. I could always, know he was there. He showed up in dreams all the time and gave me messages, and I was always communicating with him. And he was always warning me. He was always getting me out of trouble. He was always, giving me chills and being like, "Hey, something's going on." And so I thought that was pretty much a normal thing that everybody did. And I feel like a lot of us do this. We are all born with this, especially right from the birth. That's all we have when we were born, is the ability as an empath to feel things, right? We feel things. We don't have a communication yet. We don't have anything but feelings. And so we're born with this, and we learn away from it. We learn away from it. We learn out of it. We learn to talk. We learn to communicate. And so the more we lean on communication with our mouths and with our ears, the less we use the abilities that we have to feel people. But we still have it. It doesn't go anywhere. It's not gone. And so we still have it. So fast forward a little bit, and I think this is normal. I get to a certain age where people tell me, no, that's not real. That's not real. You can't communicate. There's no such thing as spirits. There's no such thing as ghosts, or that's evil, right? Like,
oh,
if you communicate with ghosts and not this person, if you're not communicating with my person and you're communicating with one of your own people, then that's evil. You shouldn't do that. That's bad. And I'm going, but wait a minute, he's been helping me all these years. Like, you don't understand. He gets me out of a lot of trouble. He stops me from hurting people or doing things, or, this is a helping thing, right? And it took me a while to even get to that part where I knew they were helping. Okay. One of the biggest turning points for me with this and this exact part is, I used to say, and all my friends knew this, I've got a bad feeling. I get a bat, and all my friends like it really woke me up one day when I said this one time, and all my friends packed up their stuff and they all ran out the room, and I'm like, why did you guys do that? And they're like, well, you said you had a bad feeling, and when you have a bad feeling, we know to listen. And I didn't even believe it myself. I was doubting myself about it. Like I just thought I was crazy. But when they did that, I'm like, oh, maybe there's something to this. Maybe this is real. And so like that was one of the turning points for me. So anyway, so then I got to this realization where at that point that happened, and I realized that okay, why am I saying this is a bad feeling? I'd get these chills. I would get a warning something bad was about to happen. I would get out of it or get away from it. It wouldn't happen to me, okay, and it would save me. So I had changed at that point. I looked at it and I said, okay, I've got to change my verbiage. I've got to change the way I look at this. Why would something bad warn me something bad was going to happen? That doesn't make any sense. So I said, this is not bad. This is something good. So I had to change it to I'm getting something's telling me something bad's going to happen, or I'm getting a feeling something's bad's going to happen, or something's trying. And so do you understand that? I feel like
Right?
you have something to say about that.
Right? Well, no, no. So now I'm just listening and thinking of a variety of incidents in my life too, right? And I've shared this before. Uh, Early teenage years, I felt from the age of 2 that my job was to protect. Something happened, and I'm like, "Ooh, I need to make sure there's balance and peace," right? So the way I did that as a teenager is I would walk around the neighborhood as a cat and look into people's windows and make sure they were asleep and everything was fine, right? Well, a friend of mine one day said, "Were you looking in my window last night?" And I said, "Well, yes, I just want to make sure you were okay." And she said, "Don't do that anymore. You scared me." So I stopped, right? So, but that made me think what I imagined I was doing. How strong is my imagination that I was able to manifest physically enough an energy that looks like a cat that someone else saw it?
Wow, that's crazy.
How strong is our imagination? So when I am visiting someone and holding a conversation with them, am I in their head? Probably. If someone is visiting me, are they in my head? If I let them, by the way, you need permission to get in my door.
Yeah, very
No,
true. And that's another thing people don't understand. Like, I don't just read people randomly. I mean, I can feel stuff from people, but like, I need your permission. I ask, can I read you? Can I come to you? And
right.
that's when the information comes. And again, that's a little different, but yeah, but I had to change the way I thought about it. And of course, and again, I get all this feedback from people who are religious and they're like, well, evil things can pretend to help you. And I'm thinking, yeah, but would something evil been helping me for 20, 30, 40 years? Like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like that's not, this doesn't feel, I can feel bad stuff, right? And like, if I ran around being afraid, right? Well, because this is another part of my story. Like, I'm not living in fear anymore. Like, I spent way too much of my life living in fear. So and so they can say, oh well, something bad, it could trick you. I'm like, yeah, and there's more evil, trust me, I can feel evil, right? There's a lot more of it when I walk to the bus stop. I am more afraid that there's an evil person on the street that's going to hurt, that has more ability to harm me than these spirits that I'm communicating with. Like, there's not a lot they can do to harm you. Can they affect you a little bit? Yeah, but it's very minor. It's very minor what they can do. Like, and if you have control over it, there's nothing they can do. Like, you actually have all the control. You
Right.
have
If
all
you
the
have,
control. You
say,
have,
no permission unless I give you permission, then it ain't going to happen. Period. It's that
yeah.
simple.
And part of that's I've always had really good protection because of the work I was planning to do, and some people don't, and so I understand that. But
Hmm.
anyway, so fast forward, I get I'm an empath, so I didn't mention that. So I mean, everybody's got a little bit of this, but my main ability is an empath. So that's how I get most of my information, and that just means that I feel things much heavier than most people do. It means that
Hmm.
I not only do I feel it more heavily, but I will confuse it for my own. Okay, so that's what empaths do. That's the biggest problem empaths have, is they they feel things so deeply that they will confuse their friends, their relationship, their people around them, the person in the store. They will confuse it for their own feelings. Okay. So this causes things like I'm a grown adult male who watches a TV commercial, a tire commercial, and a little baby's on the tire commercial. Okay. I'm bawling. Right, like I'm crying over it, and what is wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Because
Oh
I mean that's how empathic I am, is that I will cry over a tire commercial, like if it's got a baby in it, and you know what I mean? So
no. Hmm.
that's not, those aren't even my emotions. Like I'm feeling somebody else's emotions and I'm confusing them for my own. And so a lot of empaths end up with issues like addiction. So one of this is what happened to me, right? Alcoholism. It's so powerful, it's so strong. You're running around so overwhelmed by all these emotions and feelings that it's really easy to numb them. And then you feel normal, right? And so my story goes directly at a young age. Like I think 13, 14, I was already like drinking heavily and drugs. And so like I just dove right into that, and it made me feel normal, and it made me feel like I could be around other people because it numbs it. It really does. It numbs that sensation so that I'm on the same level as everybody else. I can walk in a room of people and not be crying in front of all my friends. You know, I can do that.
Right.
And then anxiety. So a big thing that empaths deal with is anxiety. So I always describe anxiety, most anxiety. Now I'm not a professional and I don't claim to know all of this, but I do know this part of it. Okay. Um, so for instance, I can't go into Winco's. That's a grocery store where I live. So I can't go when I'm in Winco for too long. I start getting this feeling like I need to get into the corner. Nobody needs to be behind me. I start getting anxious. I'll get the sweats. I mean, it'll cause a physical reaction for me. I'll have a hard time speaking, like the words get, I mean, I'm having full on panic attacks. Okay, full on panic attacks. Never happened to me till I opened up as a medium. Never had a problem in public. Okay. And so what this is I'll be in the store, I'll see somebody walk by, I'll look at their eyes. That's all it takes. And I'll think. I'll start to connect to them. I'll start to feel them. And that process of me opening up to feel them opens me up in a public place where there's lots of spirits around, lots of people. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling everybody's emotions. I'm feeling 100 people at one time's emotions. And
Mm.
I'm confusing them for my own.
Right.
And then my body is telling me, it's like the engine light going on your car saying, these aren't your feelings. Something's
Right.
wrong. And
Overload, overload.
that's the reaction of a panic attack, is to make you try to get away, to try to get all this away. Your body is telling you these are not your emotions. Isn't that
Well,
amazing?
so that's interesting because so I used to dance. I would compete and I would social dance. And they used to call me Cinderella. Why? Because between 9 and 9:30, because of what I was feeling, I would grab my shoes and go home because that's the time where all of the good dancers came in and their egos came in and the energy in the room would shift. And I couldn't take the energy in the room. I could go to competitions and watch up to a certain level, but then when the fun begins, I have to leave. It's really, really strange. So it's very, very real and it's very, very powerful. And yeah, leave.
Well, leave or one of the, so I teach this, like I teach to block. Okay. So this was a simple thing that I was taught when I first started doing this work, because this started happening to me as soon as I opened up. And this is where, again, I don't go into chakras a lot because I just don't like to, but this is the heart chakra, right? And so it's all about blocking. Okay. So if I start to feel that way in the store, I go, oh crap, I forgot to block, right? Oh, okay, I can't focus on them. Like I put earbuds in, I look down, I walk in the store not looking at anybody. But this helps. If you go like this and you block, okay, I'll teach you this little trick. So you go like this and you block your heart for a second. And when you do this, you just take a second and you like take a deep breath. And so what this is doing is you're blocking me now, because even this distance, you're feeling me. Okay. So
Yep.
you're blocking me. You're blocking the people in your house. You're blocking the neighbors. You're blocking everybody. Okay. You're blocking everybody else. And what you're left with is you. So then the job you have is to check yourself. So like right now, what I will do is I'll check how I feel. And I'll be like, okay. Say I'm in a room full of people and I was just panicking. When I do this and I check how I feel, I'm like, wait, I'm calm. Oh. And then I take my arms, I put them down, and then I feel all the chaos again, right? And it's like, oh, this isn't me. This is, oh, okay. And so that's what you do. And you only can do it by checking yourself. Because the truth
Right.
is, I could check myself and I could be panicking and I could open and everybody else could be calm. Then I
Right.
know it's me.
Right.
So that's a process, right? Of how you figure out how you're feeling, but it also calms you down and it also connects you to your feelings and how you feel. And that's so important. It's all about checking how you feel because I can't even handle my own emotions half the time, I think, because I'm feeling so many people around me and I'm confusing them with my own. So this is a really, really important thing for empaths is to constantly block, check yourself, see how you feel. Then you can deal with you, right? If I'm sad, like let's say this is how it goes. This is how I started reading people, right? So I want to read you, for instance. I block, I check how I feel. I'm a little sad today. I got some stuff going on. I'm a little upset with my wife, maybe, or I'm sad. I know that's me. Okay, I feel that. Okay. Then I open up and I check on you and I feel like anxiety. And I'm like, oh, she's nervous. I need it, oh, wait, let me see. Yep, sad. Yep, okay. See. But until I felt myself, if I tried to read you, I would think you were sad.
Right. Right. And that's part of projection,
Part of projection.
right?
And it's part of, and this is a huge issue with relationships. Okay, so I'll dive this right into relationships because I deal with a lot of relationships when I do readings and I help a lot of couples, and this is one of the biggest issues that they have is that and this is a huge issue with mother daughters too. Mother daughters have this issue really, really bad. They get too connected and they're too close to each other, and they're like combined. If one's pissed off, the other one's pissed off. Sorry, I use teenage girl energy there. One's angry, the other one's angry, and they don't know the difference. They can't
Right.
tell. They
Right.
don't know. Like when they come to me in circles and group readings, I have to separate them on the opposite sides of the rooms just to get their just so that I can read them separately because their energies are so absorbed that I'll start reading one and it'll be both. So you see what I'm saying? So like
Right.
in order and in relationships, this hurts people because they can't help the other person. Like you want to help that other person. That's why you're with them, but you can't because they're mad and then you're mad and you think you're mad, but you're not. You're just feeling them. You're absorbing their energy. And what you really need to do, and this is counterproductive, right? This is the opposite of what you think. But let's say my partner's very sad, very upset. She lost her mother. She's very sad. I'm trying to help her. I have to block myself from her first. I have to not feel her emotions so that I can say, okay, she's sad. How am I? I'm a little sad. This is sad. But I'm okay. And then I can turn around and help her because I can deal with what she's feeling because I'm not overwhelmed with what she's feeling and I'm not confusing it for my own emotions.
Right. You're not commingling hers with yours and getting confused. I have to say, so part of my journey through Lessons from Hell was dealing with the mother-daughter connection,
Ah,
right? And dealing with my expectations as the mother and realizing, wait a minute, how dare you put that on anybody? Right? How dare you? Right? This is, you need something, take care of it, Gail. And if you can't, then ask someone to help you, but don't expect anything from anybody, especially your daughter. And the phrase that came to me, the moment she was emancipated, Gail, she was no longer your responsibility.
yeah, it's crazy with children and how we think we have all this power. Like I have to tell people this all the time. Like these aren't your kids; these are God's kids. You think you have all this power? Who do you think you are? You think you're God? You think you like all you are is an example. At a
Right.
certain age, they stop being your like responsibility or oh I have to make sure and they all you are is an example at that point. And what kind of example are you being? This is what Spirit showed me. I was in this awful relationship. I was there for the kids. I was there for the kids, right? Like I was sacrificing my life because this was the best thing for the kids. Okay. And Spirit showed me this. Spirit's like, who do you think you are? You think your kids first of all, they're like, your kids don't listen to you. You think you tell did you listen to your parents when they told you not to do this or do this? Did you listen to anything your parents said? Like, no, of course not. I'm like, yeah. Do you think your teenage kid is listening to, to what you tell him? I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah, all you are is an example for him of how to live. He's looking at you to see how to handle this situation. How do you be as an adult? How do you be as a human being? And what are you teaching him, Jared? And I had to go, wow, well, I thought I was doing this for him. But the truth was what I was doing was teaching him that you should be miserable. You should live unhappy. You should go through life unhappy because it's the right thing, even though it's not.
Adulthood is sacrifice.
This is sacrifice. You're supposed to sacrifice for people. You're supposed to not, and they're like, and I was treating him awfully too. Like I had come to this realization that I was treating the person I was doing this for, I was treating awfully because for a lot of other reasons, but like it was just, I was not treating him well because I was mad, right, at her. And he reminded me of her, kind of thing. And the situation. And so the situation was awful. And Spirit said, yeah, no, what do you want to show your kids? What do you want your kids to be when they grow? What do you want them to know? What do you want them to see as an example? And I said, well, what do I want my kids? I want my kids to be happy. Like that's the ultimate goal, right? I want them to be happy no matter what. And they said, well, you better start working then. You
Yeah.
better start working because you're
Yeah.
not because that's not what you're showing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that changed my life. I mean, it changed my life. It did.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing the right thing, and I wasn't. And Spirit showed me that very, very clearly.
So one of the things that I did is I moved from the West Coast back to the East Coast to purchase a home with my daughter. So both her and my grandson would have a better environment. Not my responsibility,
Right.
right? So that was wrong. But the first thing I did, right? I learned from it. The first thing I did was say, I am not interfering between how you parent your son, and I'm minding my own business. You will not hear a peep from me, and I will never interfere, no matter what I think, which I have honored. But
Right.
the one thing I have done is
But
I've taken,
you're that way because your parents tried to interfere. Is that correct?
yes, more my siblings who thought they were my parents, right?
Right. Well,
Right.
somebody.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Tried to control me. But I also realized that I wanted to be a grandparent and I can't be a grandparent and a parent at the same time.
Yep.
I already was a parent, played that role, time for a new one. Right. So so that was selfish for doing that.
Yeah.
And I now, every once in a while we'll take him out and remind him if you ever have anything or to talk about or have any questions, I'm here for you. And that's it. I don't ask, I don't pry. But if you want, a conversation with a different perspective than your parents, I'm here.
Yeah, and that was the last part of the message Spirit gave me with that whole parenting thing, and it was like, look, the best case scenario with these kids is that you do a good enough job. They don't listen to anything you say, except for one day they might come to you. If you don't push too hard, you don't screw this up, Jared. Someday they might come to you and ask you for advice, and that's
Right,
the only time they're going to listen.
right, right.
And maybe
And it don't give it.
crazy,
It don't
right?
give it. It don't
Yeah.
give it.
Imagine
Right.
you're like, I don't know,
Right,
maybe.
right. That's what I do with my daughter. He's because she does ask me, right? And
Yeah.
and I'll say, I don't know. I'm not in your head. I'm not in your experience, but what feels right for you? What do you think would work for you? What is it that you want? I don't know what you want,
Isn't that
right?
crazy how that comes full circle where we wanted to tell them everything and make sure they knew, and be in control and thought we had all the power to, by the time we let them come back and ask us, we're wise enough to know, like, we don't know, like,
Oh, I'm
that's
not
not for
wise
us.
enough. Every time I open my
Yeah.
mouth, the universe says, "Shut up." And then I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's
Right.
very, very true. But and it's funny because the only reason I knew that was an influence on you with somebody telling you how to parent is because this is the cycle, right? And I see this all the time. Let's say, and it doesn't always happen. This isn't always, but a lot of the times, okay, you have a strict parent. they're very strict on you. They don't let you do anything. Okay. So you have your kids, you're going to do the opposite of that because you hate, you don't like the way you were treated. It wasn't right. Your parents didn't do you right. So you're going to be super free and let your kids do whatever they want. And then those kids grow up and they're like, my mom didn't have enough rules. I
Right.
didn't,
There were no
I
boundaries.
was
I
allowed
was
to do what I
confused.
know bad. And so then they become strict. And so you see this, like we always try to give what we didn't have, and then we overshoot the mark, right? We always overshoot, not always, but like a lot of times we overshoot the mark. Now, check this out. You're going to like this. So I got this from Spirit the other day. I was telling a couple this, or I was telling somebody this, and it was a grandma. And I said, the only thing that can correct this is if a grandparent chimes back in or intervenes or is involved. And when the grandparent's involved and helps level this out. Wow, that's crazy, right? Isn't that cool? So see what I'm saying? The kid, so here's how it goes. The parents being super strict because the grandparent was like super, whatever, and then the grandparents re-involved and she gives the little bit of freedom and it kind of levels it out. So there's this re-injection of the grandparent.
Right.
Interesting, right?
Well, as the grandparent, I will say that many of my lessons came from my son. So at one point, my granddaughter was maybe 2, and he reprimanded her, and I reinforced it. And he put me aside that night and said, "Listen, I'm the parent now. I want you to just enjoy my children and be the grandparent." And I was like, "He's right.
Good for him.
He's right. Yeah." Yeah, good for him. And that's where that came from. It's like it is none of my business unless I'm asked. If I'm invited in, that's a different story.
Well, even then, you should not be involved in the
Well,
discipline. I
no.
believe it's not your place and it's not the right thing to do. And again, I deal with this with step parents. It's the same type of thing with step parents. Like some of the best advice I ever had was like, hey, you're not the parent. You should not reprimand. You should, it depends on the age of the child too. If they're real young, then you can, the step parent can be involved. But when you come into late to a step parent, role, and they're already teenagers or something, you know what I mean, or like 12, 10, and even in that age, like
Yeah.
this counselor told us one time that I got this information from a counselor, and she said, "Oh, no, you don't discipline. You let the other parent discipline. You support the other parent, but you are not the parent. And if you pretend to be the parent, you are lying to yourself, and you're going to create all kinds of issues. And it's true. I have done this as a step parent. There's this huge lie. I'm all about these lies we tell ourselves,
Oh
right? I
my
learned
God, I
all this
love
stuff
you.
in program. Like, look, we tell ourselves lies. This is recovery, right? You tell yourself a lie, then you believe it, right? Then you defend it, right? And then you're in trouble, right? So I'm all about like this. And this is one of the big lies that we tell ourselves. I feel the same way about my stepchild as I do my own. Not true. It's different. It's different. I'm sorry. It's different. It's not the same. And the minute you stop lying to yourself, you can be a good parent to that other child.
It's
But
impossible for it to be the same because you have
it's
another
not.
influence that is out of your control with that child.
It is not the same. And
It
I get
is,
chills all over. So
yeah,
it's just not. And it's a lie. And it's a lie you're telling yourself. And I've seen this a million times. I've seen this in, I've had wives that were step parents to my kids, and it's like it's awful because they're not treating them the same, but they're trying to say it's the same, and they're trying to put on this show to everybody it's the same. They're trying to convince everybody that it's the same. And it's not. And that's okay. Stop trying to lie. Stop lying to yourself. Accept it. You're more of a friend role to that child than you are a parent, and take
right.
that role. That's what the counselor said. Like, you're the friend. Okay, you're the adult friend of this child, not the parent. Let the other parent do all the discipline. And a big problem that happens, especially with women, they want this fatherly role to come in and do the discipline. And so
Oh,
they want to push it on the other step parents. They're like, I need your help. I need your help. And I tell them, don't do it. It's a trap.
no,
Don't
they
do
need
it.
your support,
Uh,
not your help.
you support them with whatever they want to do. You can even have an opinion on how they should raise their child, but you can't be all you can have is an opinion.
Right.
And that's hard. And this is the biggest problem that happens. This is the biggest split that happens in relationships with kids. This is what breaks them all apart. It's all about how they should, the decision on, because I was raised like this. And I always remind them, look, were you raised right? Oh no, I was awful. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, and so you're trying to push that on her. Well, she thinks it's this way. I'm like, how do you know she's wrong?
right?
How do you know that's not the right way to raise her child? How do you know that that's not what that child needs? And I had to come to that conclusion because I was a very strict father, right? But I've over the years I've seen people who just let their kids do whatever, and I'm like, oh, those kids are going to end up awful. Those kids are not going to have any kind. And give them like 5, 10 years, and they're like shining stars, and you're like, oh, that's exactly what those kids needed. They needed freedom. How did I? Why I got that wrong?
Right.
Oh crap! I got that wrong. Like how do I know? Who do I think I am?
And here's the other thing. So I do soul readings, right? And sometimes like I can do a soul reading for someone's child, right? Like you can give me permission. And if the child is in their teens, I would want their permission as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in these days, a lot of the children are what's called an indigo child.
Right.
And indigo children are going to question everything because they know everything is a lie. And they trust that everything is a lie. And so I will say to the parent, you have an indigo child. They're going to question you all the time. And you need to allow them the freedom to explore for themselves. What do the parents do? They double down. They do the complete opposite. And then they lose that child and wonder why. Right? It's like, I told you they were an indigo child. What do you, what, well, hello? Yeah,
Yeah,
they,
a lot of and they forget children are empathic. Children, so here's the other thing that screws us up really, really bad. Okay. You're a child, you're empathic, all you have is a feeling. So I try to explain this to people all the time because this happened to me. Okay. Your mom's you've got a small child, you've seen it a million times, mom's bawling, mom's crying, mom's upset. Child's pulling on the skirt, going, Mommy, mommy, what's wrong? Right? And what does mom do? Nothing, baby. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Now, you've got an empathic child who's learning life lessons, trying to figure out what is what. And now she knows that, oh, crying and being upset emotionally, this feeling that feels awful to me means everything's okay. Like, how confusing is that?
right?
You understand? And when you
Right.
have empathic or indigo children who know better, they know it's a lie, they know it's wrong, you're teaching them that they're supposed to lie. You're teaching them that they're supposed to be okay with it. It's what the spirit told me. This is what you're showing your children, that it's okay to suffer.
Or if I can't trust my parents, who can I trust?
Yeah. And oh, so we're all supposed to lie. I mean, there's so many things wrong with that. There's
Yeah.
so many things wrong with it that it's awful. And we all do this. I'm guilty of it. I didn't do a good job at this. No, I mean, and I tell people, but everybody's got to learn this on their own, right? But I do get a lot of people who have small children who are very gifted and they're very much empaths and they know. And I tell them, look, that one, don't lie to her. She knows better. It's not helping you. Just tell her the truth. She can handle it. And that's those children you're talking about.
Right?
She can
Exactly.
handle the truth. And not only that, but you're screwing her up by lying to her. So just tell her it's okay. You're
And
not
even
helping
if
her.
the truth is, honey, I don't know the truth. Let's explore this together because I don't know the truth for you. And that's the other thing because we're all, I mean, they come, I came, yes, as a pure soul, but I also have past lives. I also have your genealogy that I'm friggin' bringing with me, right? Kind of playing in the background as well. So I'm not without some kind of influence other than you that I'm dealing with and trying to, in my body, trying to figure out all of this stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so some of my reactions may have nothing to do with you. So what do you do with that? That's why your truth may not be my truth.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And it's I don't know, it I don't know. The thing that I always talk about too, the other thing that's really important here is that we're all like, I talk about the lies we tell ourselves, right? What's the biggest lie? And I tell everybody, like, you lie to yourself, and I call us the great pretenders. Okay. We're the great, I would think of it as the great pretenders. We're all day long, all night, we're all pretending we know what we're doing. We're all pretending we have these, we know it's right when we don't. And that's when we get ourselves in trouble. Like, and it's like that with parenting. I say, well, everybody knows this if you've ever had a child, because we have a kid, they don't come with instruction manuals. We don't know what we're doing. Every day we're pretending we know how to be a parent, and we're just hoping CPS don't show up and take them away. I mean, every day, like every day it's like that. Like they get sick. We don't know, we're pretend it's a pretending thing, right? And when they come to you and they ask you, mommy, what's wrong? We're pretending, we're trying to keep up that lie that we know what we're doing. We're trying to keep up this facade that we're good parents instead of just admitting we don't know what we're doing. Like that's the thing. Like I love this. I love this. Has been so freeing for me to stop pretending I know what I'm doing when I don't.
I used
And
to say my children are growing up in spite of me.
perfect. Yeah, my children raised me. That's what I
Yes.
say. They did. They raised me because I was a
Yep.
very young. I wasn't even 18 when I had my first child. So like my kids, if it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't be here. I mean, that's the truth. Like I was suicidal. I was an addict. I was, I was living in streets. I mean, I have been down. Like the lowest a human being can be is suicidal. Like that's the truth.
That's truth.
That's the lowest you can be spiritually. And I've been there. I've been there. And so it helps me. It helps me a lot. Like if I had never been there, I wouldn't appreciate normal, right? You see
Right,
what I'm saying?
right,
I
right.
wouldn't appreciate life if I hadn't been close to losing it, right? But we do this at work. We do that, I always tell people like I go to work every day. I go to work every day pretending I know what I'm doing. I'm in over my head. This is the real feel. I mean, I might not be, but this is what we all feel, right? I'm gonna today they're gonna figure it out. Today they're gonna
Yeah.
figure out that I don't know
Right,
what I'm doing, and they're gonna come
right,
in and they're gonna
right.
fire me, right? And so what this causes us to do, I'm using work as an example. This causes us to, when someone comes to us with a problem, instead of just saying, well, I don't know what that is. We either you see people do this
I
all the
got
time.
it. I got it.
Well, yeah, and they'll deflect, or they'll do a million different things instead of just accepting it. And then that's when they start to bury themselves. They start to get in over their heads, and then one thing piles, and I hate that feeling. Like that makes me so anxious at work. I have just gotten so good at going, well, I don't know, but I can find out. I don't know,
Yes.
but I can find out.
Yes.
Right?
And and I learned that as a speaker in corporate, in business, you know, um, I managed trainers. I wasn't a trainer, I managed them. And this anchored it in. One of them, it was snowing out, didn't come in, and I had people showing up. And the subject matter was something I had no clue about, and I had to cover. But we had trainer's manuals. So I got into the room, sat on the desk, not even, I sat on a desk in front of everybody. I opened the manual. I said, we're going to learn this together. You ready? Let's go. What else could I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, and if you see like so that's how this all kind of happened for my show that I'm doing called Medium Sized Ego. Plug. Medium Sized Ego. In that show, I'm teaching people while I'm doing readings, and this is part of it. I get up and the first thing I do is go, look, I'm afraid every time I do this. Like I'm afraid. I got fear. If when I'm reading you, I'm afraid you're gonna say no. I'm afraid all this room full of people are staring at me, and the root fear of this is you're all going to look at me and say this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and you're all going to know I'm a fraud, like, because that's my fear, right? Like maybe I
Right?
don't know what I'm doing, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like that's the root fear. And I tell them every time, I still have this fear every time, no matter how many times I do this, no matter how many times this goes super well, no matter how big the room gets full of people. But and when I start with that, this is what's so amazing, okay? Because I get nervous, I get super anxious. I got rooms full of 200 people sometimes that I do these gallery events at, and I'm like super anxious. I get up there and I tell them, look, I'm super anxious. Guess what happens? It goes away. I'm like, now they're with me. Now
Right?
they're on the same page as
Like,
me.
oh,
Now
don't
they're
worry, we'll be good. We'll be a great audience for you.
well, and they're on the journey with me. And like when I
Yes.
start to struggle, I can go, see what happened? Did you guys see that? Like, see how she said no, and all of a sudden I got panicky? Like, they're like, yeah, yeah. And I can just feel them. They're all with me. And it just takes the fear away. So
Right.
it's like it's just the being straightforward and being honest and being upfront with people and just telling them, I don't know. Like everybody knows this, like with work. And when you come into a job and you come into a job and you're like, look, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So, but I'm willing to learn, then people are willing to help you all the time, and it's comfortable, and you can say you knew I didn't know, show me it. But if you go into a job and you're like, I know everything,
Oh my God,
and you're
no.
way over your head, and then when stuff starts coming, what happens? What happens when they throw something on your desk and you don't know how to do it? How do you handle that? What's the feeling like? How
Oh my
high is
God.
that anxiety
You
level?
want to hide. You want to hide. And I have a very similar story for you. I worked at a small company called GE, and I worked with the disability leadership team, supported their technology, which meant their software, their hardware, their infrastructure. And the person that I had to report to, no one liked. They thought he was a jerk, blah, blah, blah. So I got on the phone with him and I said, listen, I'm going to need your help. I'm really good with the software. I got great guys working here. We can figure it out. Kind of hazy on the hardware. I know nothing about infrastructure. I'm going to need your help. You know what he said? Those are my weak points too. We'll do it together. He was never a jerk to me. I never had a hard time with him.
Yeah, he probably just was seeing through everybody else's bull.
Right?
you know,
Probably, probably,
I've
but
always got along with those people too. And again,
yeah, you've got
it
to,
honestly
the
goes
second
so
you fess
far.
up,
Yeah.
it comes.
And I don't do it for their sake. Like that's the thing. I'm not doing it for anybody else's sake except for my own anxiety level because I can't live like that. Like I mentioned I'm in recovery and I have to like that's what I learned I can't live like that. I can't live
Right,
in fear. I can't live in anxiety, and that causes me so much anxiety. And I've got a whole system to figure that out. But that's one of those things, and it happens at work. It happens in spiritual life. It happens everywhere. And if I can be honest with you, and I learned this in recovery, right? Because it's the fourth and fifth step, right? So in sobriety, you have to tell all your deep dark secrets to somebody else. Okay, that's what that's all about. And I spent 12, 14 years in and out of recovery trying to get sober and wouldn't do that because I thought it was such a big, scary thing, right? Like I can't
yeah.
tell it. It was so
Oh
bad. I
my God,
couldn't
they
tell it.
can't
Like,
know. They can't know.
no, I can't tell it because I'm so bad. Like, you're hiding from it. And then when I finally did that, and I finally told my deep dark secrets. It was so funny because it took me so many years to do it. And let's just use the example that so the big one for me was that I was molested as a child. Okay, so there was this big dark secret, and again, obviously, I'm okay telling everybody now because this is how freeing it is. Okay, so I tell my sponsor, and I go, yeah, this is the thing I've been hiding, and he goes, oh yeah, that happened to me too, and he tells me his story, and he goes, hey John, come here, tell Jared about what happened to you, and then hey George, and there was like three people there out of five who had the same exact story. And this whole time I was hiding this and it kept me separate from you. It kept
Right,
me separate from them. It
right.
kept me alone. I was alone in the world.
Do you
I
know
was
that
all alone.
I don't say I would have discovered, but it's been my observation that men who have been molested have more shame than women.
Yeah, for
And there's
sure.
a lot of shame around that. A shitload
Yeah.
of shame.
But the great part about it was that I realized, like, it kept me alone. I thought I was alone in the world. I was the
Right,
only person who had these problems, and this is what we all do. And
right,
that's what this is why, because I didn't tell anybody, and all I had to do was tell them. And guess what? Now I'm connected to you. I'm connected. Now I'm open. Now I'm connected to the world again. I'm
right,
not alone.
right,
I'm not alone. I'm not
right,
alone. You know what I mean? Like that's what that did for me. So I learned that we have to stop lying to ourselves. We have to stop hiding, and we have to share. And that's why I'll share any dirks. Like I'm not afraid to tell my story because it helps people. Like if it
right,
helps people, then it's meant to be, right? It's meant to be. And so I will show this. This is my great pretender story, right? So this is what spirit taught me. It's not drawn exactly right, but I had one of my clients draw it for me. But this is the inner us, right? Like this is the young me. This is the person on the inside who's actually running the show. I'm really a little kid. I'm a 9-year old who's in charge, and
exactly.
I'm pretending to be this guy. When I say we're the great pretenders, this is what I mean. This is my wife, and she's pretending to be this adult. She's going to work. She's doing her job. She's pretending she knows what she's doing. She's pretending she's an adult, but she's really just this little kid. Okay. And I'm going to work and I'm pretending to be an adult and I'm pretending I know what I'm doing, but I'm just hoping they don't find out that I don't know what I'm doing. Right. And that's work. Right. And then we come home and then We're arguing over the dishes. This is a dishes argument. Okay. This is what this is. This is a dishes argument. Okay. I didn't put the dishes away. She's yelling at me for not doing the dishes. Okay. So that's what these two people are fighting about. Okay. But that's not the problem, right? That's not the problem.
No.
What's really going on is this is the root. This is the root of every relationship. This is the root. This is important. Okay. She's afraid that I don't love her and that she loves me and that she's put all this work into this relationship and all this time and I'm going to hurt her. That's the truth. That's the fear. And I'm afraid I love her. She doesn't love me. I put all this work in this relationship and she's going to do to me what my ex-wife did to me. Like that comes into it too. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
again,
Right.
it's either ex-wife or parents or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a fear of being hurt.
Right.
That's the root. And what she doesn't know is that I'm having the same fear she's having. See, it's just like that thing that happened in that recovery. It's the same thing. Because this guy's talking to this girl, not this girl talking to this little boy and this little girl. So what happens is the moment I say, honey, I'm sorry, when you yelled at me about not doing the dishes, it reminded me of my ex-wife who made me feel like I never did anything around the house. And she made me feel like I was useless. And she always talked down to me and she made me feel like I was a slob. And she made it feel like it was me. And that triggered me to feel that feeling of, you don't love me, you're going to hurt me like she did. Do you understand?
Right.
And when I tell her that, I'm talking from this place. And
And
you know what
that
that
is
does?
the game of life.
That's the game. And she says, and when I talk to her from this guy, this girl responds and goes, oh, you're right. When you responded that way, it made me feel like, hopefully, if this works, then it triggers her to respond. And the minute these two people respond and these two people are talking, that's genuine. That's
Right.
love. That's where the magic happens. And that's where a relationship is these two people talking to each other and
And a
keeping these two
relationship
people
isn't
out of
just
it.
a husband and wife. A relationship
Yep.
isn't work. A relationship with your friend. A relationship with your dog. Relationships are just you relating to yourself.
And I showed you that with the recovery because it wasn't me and my wife; it was me and another adult, a male
Right.
adult, my sponsor. Right? That's where I
Right.
learned it. Like, oh, if I talk from my heart, if I talk from the fear, if the person who's afraid, if I just tell you my fears, if I come from a place of telling you the truth of what I'm afraid, you're not going to use that to stab me, and if you can't hurt me with that any more than I'm already hurting myself. That's the funny thing. Like, you
Right.
think if I tell her how I really feel, she's going to hurt me with it? She could already do that.
Right.
She already has all the power to hurt you. She can't hurt you any more than she already can.
Right.
That's
Right.
a lie
And
we
if
tell
her
ourselves.
intention is to do that, then she's going to do that. If
It's
it's
going to
not
happen
her
with her.
intention, she's going to say, "Oh no, I love you. Do you know I had the same fear?"
Exactly.
It's amazing. So listen, Jared, I have to go.
Okay.
It's almost at 11 o'clock, but
Okay.
I want to thank you for joining us. And everybody, thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. If you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up, please. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments section. We will get back to you. If you know someone who could benefit from this, and I bet you do, please do share it out. And as always, subscribe because then you know when the next episode is available. Thank you, Jared. This was so much fun.
And make sure you check out her new book.
That's correct. And Jared, you're going to give me information so people can get in touch with you, and it'll be in the show notes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.